So I'm now going to dive into my supplemental essays. Obviously the Common App essay is your main essay that you fill out on the Common App, and the Common App essay is sent to all Common Application schools. So I sent my Common App to most of the schools that I applied to. And supplemental essays, usually each school that you apply to will have some sort of additional supplemental essay that's just for that school. So the supplements that I'm about to go through are just for Stanford. So I only sent these supplemental essays to Stanford. So each school will have their own supplemental essays, and it's a chance for you to, you know, continue talking about yourself, continue to share your experiences, and to just give more information about yourself. So it's really great, and they're honestly kind of just as important as the Common App essay, I would say. The first supplement prompt is: the Stanford community is deeply curious and driven to learn in and out of the classroom. Reflect on an idea or experience that makes you genuinely excited about learning. I knew I wanted to talk about my university research experience that I had mentioned previously, because I felt like it was my strongest extracurricular activity, my strongest learning experience, my strongest experience that related to STEM and engineering. So while it was, I think, my most impressive thing, I didn't want to spend too much time, you know, talking about technical things or talking about my specific work that I did, because my admissions officer probably will not know anything about it. Like, you know, maybe, I mean, it's pretty unlikely they would just know the random technical task that I did. I wanted to spend more time talking about the actual learning experience, because that's what the prompt says to talk about. So I didn't want to just like rattle off about all these impressive things that I did, but I wanted to obviously weave in things about the work that I did. So you'll kind of see how I do that here. Again, with the theme of being implicitly impressive and not explicitly impressive. So not just like going on and on about cool things that you did, but just like weaving them in while, I guess, like mainly talking about the learnings and the experience. One other thing is that my recommendation letter, one of them was from my principal investigator, which is the head of a research lab. So I knew that he would probably talk about the specific things that I did and my work ethic. So I didn't think that I need to harp on it too much in this essay, as a side note. So my first paragraph begins: I had the opportunity to conduct. So this paragraph clearly introduces the work that I did, but again puts emphasis on the learning and the experience, and not just about like technical things that I accomplished, which was really important, because the prompt asked to talk about a time when you were excited about learning. So I wanted to emphasize the learning part and being excited about the learning part, because that's what the prompt asked to do. So paragraph 2 begins: working in a neuroscience lab. This paragraph is good because I dive into kind of like what my work day looked like, so I feel like you get different snapshots into what I was doing, but then I also obviously talk about the different failures that I had and what I gained from those things. So it's a little bit cliche in that it's kind of the classic, like, I learned from my failures and not from my successes story, but I think that the way that I told it was very specific. You know, like, I didn't think the way that I told it was super cliche. I talked about my specific experiences in the lab and the different things that I had to do, and kind of like exactly the way that this enhanced my experience as a learner. I think it still is impressive because I'm like, oh, I work with PhDs and scholars, I still obtained critical data from the lab, I did all these experiments, but I didn't talk about it like that in like sort of a bragging tone. I kind of just fit it in there while actually talking about the failures and the learning experience. I think that was important too, again, weaving in what I did instead of explicitly bragging about them. Okay, cool. So second supplement is, I'll read the prompt first. So this is like, I think, the most famous Stanford supplement. It's: virtually all Stanford undergraduates live on campus. Write a note to your future roommate that reveals something about you that will help your roommate and us know you better. My goal of this essay was to give insight into my personality. So this actually has nothing to do with the dance and STEM spheres that I talked about. So this is one of those essays that I wanted to just kind of have fun with and just give insight into who I am as a person. And actually, your Stanford admissions officer, after you get in, sends you a little note just saying like, hey, we're so excited, we really hope that you come to Stanford. And she wrote in my essay about some topics I talked about in this one. She wrote in the note about things I talked about in this specific essay. So obviously she remembered it and it really stuck with her. It's really hard to kind of show off who you are in just like essays, right? Because like your application, I don't know, I mean, obviously it's not physical pieces of paper, but it's just like pieces of paper that have words about you. They don't actually get to meet you or to talk to you. So I feel like this essay is your chance to act as if you were standing across the table from them and we're just like trying to have a conversation, trying to make friends with them. So that's what I did in this essay. So first paragraph begins: I must confess that I'm probably So obviously this has nothing to do with academics or learning, but these are all just like quirky things about me that I wanted to include, and I feel like gives a really clear insight into my personality. That's all I really have to say about this first paragraph. I think that it's interesting, and again, with kind of like the personal hook, I think that again, if you picked up this essay in a pile of 100, you would know that it was mine if you knew me. So paragraph 2 begins, "Now that makes me sound..." I think again, this is just like the last one, it just gives more insight into who I am. And it also hints at the fact that I'm always very well prepared and I'm always there to support others. So obviously that's more of like an underlying theme. I don't really say that explicitly. I genuinely have all these things in my school bag. Like at Stanford, I still have all these things. So it is true. And again, it's just kind of quirky. And as you can see, the style is in third person. So I'm like, Jasmine's got this, Jasmine's got that. Like, so it's a little bit more narrative in that sense that I did that stylistic choice of asking a question and then like saying that I have it, which is kind of cool because it seems like I'm talking to you, or I guess more like someone's talking about me in a specific way. So thought that was cool. All right, third paragraph. I also have an edgy, extremely... This aspect of the essay kind of introduces a new facet of my personality. Again, like this whole essay was just a chance for me to show off who I am. That's really it. I just wanted to show off who I was, what my personality was. And my final paragraph is just one sentence. It says, "I can't wait to begin our..." And then I wrote :P, so like the sticking your tongue out little text emoji. And then I said, "I hope you read this as :P," which is just like a joke from iCarly, if anyone's seen that. That joke was in that show and I just thought it was funny to insert at the end. Yeah, obviously, like I'm not super funny, but I just thought it'd be funny to put that joke in there because I think that's kind of funny. With this essay, I would definitely not try to impress at all. Like just try and be you. And obviously, I don't think this essay needs to be super like professional. It still needs to be obviously like clean and clear, but it doesn't need to be like super professional or super impressive. You can talk about academics. I think some people try and weave in things about academic topics, and those are still super successful essays. But yeah, me personally, I just didn't want to do that, and I just wanted to be more funny and lighthearted. Okay, so my last essay is "Tell us about something that is meaningful to you and why." So I struggled with this essay the most actually, so I just didn't really know what to talk about. So I actually chose to just introduce a new topic that I hadn't talked about before, about community service. These also don't really talk about either the themes dance or engineering, but I wanted to show another side of myself that, I don't know, just like talk about something different that I hadn't mentioned before. And I also wanted to write something that was a little bit more narrative in style to kind of show off my writing skills a little bit, since my other essays were a little bit more frank and like, yeah, not as narrative. So paragraph 1, "I'm doing it by myself. I'm swimming." That's it, that's just the first paragraph. So obviously this is like a very narrative type of introduction, and I felt like it was super powerful. It introduces the exact scene, exact place, exactly who I'm with. We're in the pool, you know, talking about who I'm volunteering with. Again, I think it's like interesting, specific, and again, narrative in style, as I mentioned I wanted to do in this essay. Paragraph 2, "It was my favorite activity to volunteer." This gave some insight into the experience that I had during the day, talked a little bit more specifically about what I was doing. I don't know, just like gave insight into something that I don't think a lot of people think about. I think this experience was pretty unique, and also this paragraph, I was kind of critically analyzing the experience and introduced themes that were creative and insightful. So I think that's why this paragraph was pretty successful. And my third paragraph is "Contrary to individuals who lose..." So again, I think this paragraph highlights how my experience was different than just like a typical community service experience. I think it wasn't the typical like, I learned like, you know, I was helping them, but they actually helped me. So again, I kind of had like, I alluded to a cliche theme, but mine was much more specific and talked about the specific experiences, and I really elaborated on the specific things that I learned. So I think that's really important too, like just trying to steer away from cliche themes and like not being specific. So I think that's what I did here, and that's why that was successful. Okay, cool. So the last paragraph is, "I got to know each adult as the unique individual." again, these just kind of focus on the lessons learned, my takeaways from the experiences. So again, it's super important to talk about how your experiences change you, change your perspective, inspired you in some way. Genuinely just like pointless to talk about an experience and not talk about how it impacted you. So that's what I talked about here. I specifically talked about how the experiences was meaningful for me, which was directly addressing the prompt, which is really important. Make sure to directly address the prompt, and also touched on things that were not super cliche, but were rather specific to the experience. Cool, so those were all the supplements for Stanford. So the last piece of Stanford's application are these short answers, which are kind of like supplemental essays, but they're really just like super short questions that Stanford has. So these are only like 50-word questions. So my goal of these questions was to not repeat things I had already talked about in my essays. So you only have so few words to talk about yourself in your application, so it's really pointless to spend time repeating things. So try and come up with new things about yourself. You're interesting, you have a lot of layers to you, so try and show off every single one of those layers in your application. So I guess this first short answer is actually 150 words, so it's briefly elaborate on one of your extracurricular activities or work experiences. So it says, I began dancing when I was 2 years old. I haven't talked about dance too much in my application, and that's because it was actually talked about a lot in my activity section. So I talked about both of the pre-professional ensembles that I was on in my high school, as well as the studio that I trained at. And then I also taught a dance class at a local shelter for my senior service project. So I kind of had 4 activities that related to dance. And I also submitted an arts portfolio for dance. So I had my arts resume, I had a rec letter from my dance teacher, and then I also had, I believe, a 6-minute video that showcased some of the different solos I've had throughout the years. So dance was more showcased in my art supplement, but I hadn't really written anything about it yet, so that's why I wanted to include something here that's pretty straightforward, talk about what I did, why it was important to me, but obviously I show off most of that in my art portfolio. So now I'm going to go into the super short question. So the first one is, what is the most significant challenge that society faces today? So I answered, we can be proud of our race, ethnicity. So this is something that I'm actually really passionate about because I feel like I comprise a lot of different identities, and I'm kind of often stereotyped in various ways based on what identities people think I conform to most, which is not super cool. So yeah, I think this is very well written. It's very clear, and it talks about something really specific and not super general. Like, I guess I could have said like a problem that we have is like, you know, the struggle with racial injustice, which obviously is a problem society faces, but it wasn't as specific to me. And so even if there are a lot of problems that are really important to you, I would encourage you to pick something more specific and personal for this question. All right, so next one, how did you spend your last 2 summers? So my answer is 2 summers ago. With this one, I wanted to highlight various experiences. Obviously, I did some other things besides these in my summers. I picked these experiences strategically because I wanted to hit on things that were fun, hanging out with my friends and family, things that related to dance, and then my research. So again, hitting on the 2 spheres, dance and STEM, but also touching on things that just make me a normal human. Like, obviously, you probably hung out with your friends and your family in the summers, and it does no good to just seem like a robotic academic student that only does things relating to academics. So I wanted to put some things in there just like about my family vacation and just like fun things that I did. Again, just to like touch on my personality and make me seem more like a real person instead of just like a number on applicant 00152 or something. I wanted to like seem more like a real human. Okay, so next one. What historical moment or event do you wish you could have witnessed? So I wish I could have witnessed my early childhood as a third. So I think this one was cool because it talked about something really unique and again, really personal to me. So again, with this question, I didn't want to pick some historical moment that was really famous and cliche, even though I would have loved to be at like, you know, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Historical moments like that are super famous. Don't talk about them because like so many people are going to bring those up and you don't want to waste any, or I guess like you don't want to waste one word of, you know, the few spaces that you have to talk about yourself on something that they're going to forget. So make it important, make it unique. So definitely spend time thinking about these. I feel like my theme was really unique for this question, and that's why I thought it was successful. Next, what 5 words best describe you? Mildly caustic, meticulous. So again, wanted to reveal some new things about my personality. I referred to some themes from my previous essay, my roommate essay, you know, like the germ freak and meticulous and mildly caustic. Those all kind of allude to that essay. And I also wanted to have a collection of words, again, that just describe me, that if you read those 5 words that hopefully they wouldn't describe anybody else or that they're really unique. So yeah, I would encourage you to also just be really unique with this one and pick words that are very specific to you, and if you read them out to somebody, they'd be like, oh yeah, for sure, that describes you perfectly. Okay, next, when the choice is yours, what do you read, listen to, or watch? So again, a bulleted list. Kristen Hanna's novel is about women. So again, I highlighted things about my personality. I talked about different things. It said, what do you read, listen to, or watch? And I chose to talk about all three of those things. Don't be afraid of bulleted lists on these short questions because it gives you more space to talk about things, which is super cool. I didn't want to be dishonest and like just talk about academic things because I definitely, like if you watch a Netflix show or something that you binge, like put that there. Like don't be super robotic and just seem like an academic person that doesn't have any fun. So again, just wanted to be truthful with this one and talk about things that showed off a mix of my personality. All right, 2 more. So name one thing you're looking forward to experiencing at Stanford. I'm looking forward to the multifaceted curriculum. So I made sure to talk about things that were specific to me. So I know I love things in math and science, but coming to Stanford, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So it was really great that I had the opportunity to explore things that I wanted to do and have to tie myself down. And that was really important to me in terms of where I wanted to go to college. For this one, definitely do your research, like research Stanford extracurriculars that you might want to join, organizations that we have, professors you might want to do research with, classes you might want to take, like do your research and be really, really specific with this question. All right, so the last one is, imagine you had an extra hour in the day. How would you spend that time? I would love to start a bullet journal. So again, I just wanted this to be another like fun answer. Definitely don't say that you want to sleep an extra hour in the day. That is like the worst response. Do not say that. Think about something specific, but also realistic. Like obviously you're not going to be like building an entire app. Maybe you would like over time, but like just try and be realistic. And this also alluded to me being organized, loving stationery. So it all kind of fits together, and you can tell that none of these were just like made up, that I said just to get in. Yeah, so that was all of my essays, and I think for my general tips that I've been saying, make sure to pick themes that you want to highlight about yourself. So mine were dance and STEM, and also just like I was infusing things about my personality in there, infusing things about me being well-rounded. So that's super, super important. Have a clear vision of who you're going to be at Stanford or wherever it is that you want to go, and make that super, super clear and known to the admissions officer. So, when they read my essay, they were like, okay, we know exactly who Jasmine's going to be at Stanford. We know exactly the kind of community she's going to be involved in. I guess like the place that she's going to have at Stanford, who she's going to impact. Both at Stanford and then beyond after she graduates. So that all needs to be super, super clear, because there are too many just like good, well-rounded students that are applying to these schools that you're not going to stand out by just being another one of those. And then another thing is, please, please, please talk to your parents, talk to your friends that know you. You'll be surprised the things that you learn about yourself and how the dots of your experiences and why you are the way that you are just kind of come together and connect.